it's worth us now taking a further look at exactly how business interests have been allowed to override sites of significance to either Indigenous populations or indeed of environmental importance. It's not just Australia, it's elsewhere. For instance, miners enjoy a particularly strong immunity in Australia, in Western Australia, where all the large mines are located. Since July 2010, companies have got approval to destroy or disturb 460 sites. Only one application has been denied, and that's after the Rio Tinto debacle. So what happened with Rio Tinto? Well, that was in June. Aboriginal flags flew at Black Lives Matter marches. Racial justice protests spread around the world as a result of what took place. And the global movement underlines global problems. In Brazil, it's President Bolsonaro who's opening up the Amazon to agribusiness, in doing so, ignoring Indigenous outcry. Jamie Lowe's with me. He is the Chief Executive of the National Native Title Council. He joins me from Melbourne, Australia, which by my reckoning is somewhat early in the morning, but I'm very glad, sir, that you've joined me. I suppose, you know, a great victory at one level, an overall loss because of the damage done, but you have laid down a marker that you won't be messed around with when it comes to these important sites.
Yes, it's no doubt our communities, our traditional owners here in Australia put a line in the sand and said enough's enough. We're tired of our sites being desecrated and destroyed by mining companies here in Australia and not valued.
So, in the end, though, I mean, to get rid of the CEO, it was the protests, yes, but it was the investors. It was the large corporate shareholders and the pension funds that finally said he's got to go. So does that mean when you're doing these campaigns, you need to target your firepower more towards investors and less on street marches, for example?
Well, there's no doubt the activism element is crucial, and also bringing our allies on, which in this case were the investors along on the ride, is also equally as important. So I think it's not either or. You need both elements of the kind of, I guess, the strategy to create change. And I guess in this situation, money talks. Money talks when they blew up the mine, and also the investors use their power and their authority as investors to call for the CEO to hedge the role.
Right. Is there a natural inconsistency between the requirements of large mining corporations and the historical title claims and lands of the Indigenous people? Can the two live together, or are they inevitably in discord?
I think they can live together, but the power sits within the mining corporates at the moment. There's no power given to the Indigenous people of the nation of Australia. That power imbalance needs to shift, and it needs to shift quickly. Laws need to change, not only within state governments here, also within federal governments. There's some real issues there, and it's some historic issues. So Indigenous values here in our lands need to be valued just as other values are.
I want to go back to the caves that were destroyed, and the first drawings, it's believed, going back for more than 40,000 years. Rio Tinto said they didn't know they were that important. Frankly, that's almost impossible to believe, bearing in mind the fuss and hullabaloo that there had been. But in your view, how significant a loss has the Indigenous population suffered as a result?
It's incredibly significant. The site's, 46,000 years old in anyone's estimation is incredibly ancient. There were sites there which predated the Ice Age. Wasn't only of value to us as Indigenous people, it should have been of value to the nation of Australia, but also value to the world for its significance. So I think the money in this situation's won out. There was $35 million worth of iron ore underneath the caves, so they decided, I think it was a business decision, there's no doubt, that they would blow up. There was 3 other sites that they could have explored. which weren't disclosed to the traditional owners of that area. So it was no doubt it was a business decision, and I guess the business decision, the fallout of that is the CEO's gone.
Jamie Lowe, thank you for joining us from Melbourne this morning. Have a good weekend.